Good afternoon. I noticed on the internet that leaders, so-called the Jewish leaders in Pittsburgh, refused to have President Trump visit them. I don't know which law those so-called Jewish leaders are following. I am certain that none of them are Orthodox, because it's a mitzvah to see a king and to make a bracha over a king. And even though there are no kings in America, the closest thing to a king is the president. The president has been given the power by God over the largest country in the world. And because, whether you like him or not, because he is powerful, there is a bracha, there's an actual blessing that you say over a ruler that you're supposed to say when you see a president. The Torah tells us that God commanded Moses and commanded him concerning the people of Israel, the children of Israel, and to Paro, king of Egypt, to tell him that he should let the children of Israel go. But there's a comment that I'm sure that these rabbis have overlooked. It says that God commanded Moses concerning Paro, the king of Egypt. So Rashi says he commanded Moses to treat Paro with respect, with the proper respect that's supposed to be given to a monarch. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to be given this instruction? Because Moshe Rabbeinu grew up with Paro. Paro was the replacement for the previous Paro. And Moshe Rabbeinu was in the same household with the present Paro. And he had complete disdain for this Paro. He knew just how silly he was as a person, how petty, and therefore had the greatest disrespect and the greatest disdain for him. Nonetheless, God tells him that because he is the king, you have to speak to him with the proper respect due to a king. And this flies in the face of what the pundits on the media, on the left and on the right, do concerning the president that they disagree with. The same thing is true with all of the athletes who refuse to visit the White House, despite the tradition to visit the White House after they've won a championship. The reason is because they disagree with the policies of the president, and therefore he's a despicable person. Why is he a despicable person? As long as Donald Trump was giving money to the Democrats, and as long as he had not officially made himself into a Republican, everybody went after him. He was the same despicable, narcissistic, self-indulgent, bombastic person who had no introspection at all, and yet everybody ran after him and everybody gave him honor. The answer is, you don't care about a person's personality as long as he agrees with you. The minute he disagrees with you, he's a terrible person, and you find everything you can to criticize him. Now, where there is truth, one cannot disagree. But what one can disagree is the degree with which people have used their differences to disrespect the position of the president. And I hereby declare, I have the smallest, probably the smallest congregation in all of Detroit. Nonetheless, it would be my honor if President Trump would visit my congregation, or even the former president, Barack Obama, with whom I have very little in common ideologically. And I would give both of them the podium and show both of them great honor, because they were the leaders of the free world. And the truth is that if people would tone down the rhetoric and would not use hyperboles and stick to the issues, things would be a lot calmer. There would be less charged emotion in the atmosphere, which leads to the horrific activities that we have. And don't blame the president for that. I blame the pundits and the media from both sides of the aisle. When you talk about charging Hillary Clinton with crimes and making her into a petty criminal, that's very, very divisive and arouses anger among other people. And that causes them to want to deride and diminish the activities of the present president. Yet you can disagree with his policies. You can't disagree with the fact that a lot of his policies have worked. That most of the time he's right and you're wrong. He was right concerning moving the embassy to Jerusalem, and he happens to be a friend of the Jews, not an enemy. And I would be most honored to house the president and even the previous president, with whom I have many disagreements with. Nonetheless, they deserve our respect because they led the free world, and they kept us out of battle and conflict as best as they could. And to that, I am grateful. I am grateful to be a citizen of this country, protected by the laws of the country, and having the rights given to me by the founding fathers, which allow me to worship as I please and to do as I please as long as I don't injure another person. And God should help all the people in this country. We should get along better. And we should do things to see that there is greater harmony, less divisiveness, and less need for people to express their hatred. I know that you may think of it as a trite statement, but when people, millions of people, begin to express concern and respect for the well-being of others with whom they have disagreements with, that goes a long way to making people get along. Just because someone disagrees with you does not make him your enemy, does not make him a hateful person or a fascist. I don't agree that abortion should be permitted except for the protection of the life of the woman. Does that make me a hateful person? Well, many women would say so. But I say, if you don't want to have children, either protect yourself or use abstinence. Don't go ahead and play games with your bodies and then kill an innocent creature because it's inconvenient. That's selfishness. That's selfishness, self-indulgence, and narcissism, all wrapped up in one, as well as murder. You think it's not murder? Well, once you had abortion, you also had the movement for doctor-assisted suicide. Once you had doctor-assisted suicide, you have medicide. And don't tell me it doesn't happen. It happens thousands of times a year, maybe many more times a year, where doctors have decided, without the knowledge of the family, that the person doesn't really deserve to live anymore. They've lived a long enough time, and it's just about time to close the book. They almost did it to my mother, so I know. And the reason for that attitude is because you think you can play God, who deserves to live and who deserves to die. That is a terrible thing. I disagree with you. And just because I disagree with you doesn't make me your enemy. Doesn't mean I dislike you. Doesn't mean that I don't want your benefit. I also don't believe in open borders, despite the fact that I'm an immigrant. Borders are necessary to protect the country. The United States cannot feed all the poor people in the world. What the United States and other countries have to do is to create an environment where people learn to take care of themselves, and also where it's not effective for leaders to be tyrants. We have to give favored nation status to those nations who are good and kind to their constituents, not because the nation is big and tough and mean. We should be nicer to democracies, less nice to tyrannical governments. Doesn't mean you don't trade with them. It means you show them you do not like or appreciate what they're doing to their constituents by not giving them favored status. You don't punish them, but you don't do them favors either. Or if you do a favor, the favor costs them. There's a way of doing that. Our job is to get the rest of the world to create an environment where people can fend for themselves. We cannot take care of all the hungry children in the world. It's a fallacy. What we need is parents who take care of their children, who have the opportunity to take care of their children. That's our job. Our job is not to take care of all the tired and the hungry and so on and so forth. Yes, if somebody comes here, is found, but if you have people going to the border and destroying the border, then the country's not a country. The country's no longer safe. The country cannot take millions of people willy-nilly. Can't do that. It will destroy the economy, ultimately destroy the country. So I'm against open borders, and I'm against open immigration. I am for discerning immigration and a better immigration policy, which of course the left is against, and maybe some people on the right are also against. But that doesn't make me their enemy or a hateful person, despite the rhetoric and hyperbole, which I ask you to tone down. President Trump, you're welcome to visit me. I, Chaim Moshe Bergstein, 32,000 Middlebelt, Farmington Hills, Michigan, of Congregation Beis Chabad, give you an invitation to come and speak. Thank you.